Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show, everyone. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Everyone, hey, welcome into the program. Today on the show, we have computer and technology news. We have a lot of different stories, everything from a deep dive into the recent disinformation campaign about the Pfizer, vaccine, which, of course, uses social media to propagate that. And of course, ties to, tech companies. Who knew? We have that story. We have more, including, of course, rumors about upcoming hardware from Nintendo and Microsoft, and of course, software, as well as a couple more stories, and just some fun stories thrown in there as well, such as how much money. One that I've never really been a fan of. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm American, but EA and FIFA in their soccer game, their Ultimate Team game, $3,000 a minute is what that game, generates in terms of revenue. It's really incredible, and we'll have a ton of fun stories like that throughout the day as well. But everyone sit back, relax. I hope that you are having a great day and you are ready for Computer America. So before we get started, though, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, all the shows, everything you need to know about the program, including reviews, articles, show notes, podcasts. If you want to listen to us anywhere else, if you're listening to us live on IRN, we definitely appreciate that. But the second best place would, of course, be the podcast, which is simply today's show redone as a podcast. Now, with all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started with computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Here we go. Okay, so there's a lot to dive in here. We can go ahead and, I actually like this one. We're going to actually, why don't we, not measure expectations, but, kind of bring the volume down about Unreal Engine 5. I've been really excited about it. We've talked about it here on the show, and I do think it's going to be it's going to do great things. And of course, optimization of software is always going to be a thing. But, this article from Notebook Check, a publication we don't normally, really see too much, but check this one out. Notebook Check talking about the fact that 4K and 4K at the cost of 1080p when it comes to their super resolutions. So with that being said, Epic Games released a demo of the Unreal Engine 5 today, and one key feature, and by the way, we were talking about that yesterday, it really does look amazing. And so anyways, they released today or yesterday, and one key feature is creating quite a buzz among developers and gamers alike, which is the Temporal Super Resolution, TSR. Add it to your vocabulary, and it's they say that Temporal is a new anti-aliasing feature that many see as an upscaling feature, which, personally I'm not that upset about upscaling at all, considering upscaling, just kind of automatically makes things better. And, obviously I think people want higher fidelity natively, but hey, you get what you get. According to Epic, TSR should create sharper, more stable images than before, with quality approaching true native 4K at the cost of 1080p. Essentially, TSR improves how a PC tracks geometry and lighting without heavily impacting frame rates. The results show with NVIDIA's DLSS in that TSR serves as an anti-aliasing feature, but can also upscale models and generally smooth out graphical hiccups. Anti-aliasing really improves if you play video games or, kind of watch the CGI videos whenever you have that super jagged edge along a straight line, because obviously, or even take, like, let's say a rounded object, it's going to have those little jagged, it's going to have those little jagged bumps. And I can actually pull up an image here to, kind of see it instead of, so people can see it if you're watching the video portion here. And anti-aliasing, kind of improves the look of these features by adding these little artifacts. And it doesn't seem like much, but of course from far away, those images are going to look much smoother because, things in real life aren't just, straight object, or, it removes the really harsh edges in video games. And so it's definitely a good thing. But when you take something that's natively, let's say 1080p, and you upscale it to 4K, everything kind of increases in resolution, and those jagged edges are going to be all the more noticeable in the new 4K model. So they're promising that this TSR is able to smooth that out automatically and better. So the big draw is improved graphic fidelity without the hit to frame rates. In a demo from Epic, a scene rendered at 4K hit about 18.57 frames per second. The same scene rendered at 1080p averaged about 43 frames per second. By the way, both of those would not be acceptable, I think, to most people. 40 frames per second, 60 or bust, if not 140. Anyways, or 144. Anywho, the same scene, so sure, the 1080p scene isn't as clean or sharp as native 4K scene, but it's noticeably better than a 1080p scene without TSR or any kind of upscaling. So other features of TSR include ghosting reduction, reduced flickering on complex geometry, and other graphical output quality improvements. Right now, Unreal Engine 5 is currently only a demo, and the full release is slotted for early 2022. I'm sure that the people who design, make video games still can't wait to get their hands on this new game engine, and I'm really excited to see just how good everything looks, because, it's kind of like operating systems or graphics cards or anything that's kind of basic to our computing needs. As soon as you raise the floor, as soon as you up the minimum, you kind of make everything basically better, then, hey, everything, of course, gets better. It's not just stuff at the top end. It's not just stuff, kind of in the middle. It's everything. So looking forward to Unreal Engine 5. Now, this other story really caught my attention because this is one that we talked about yesterday where, we were talking about, and we're going to skip through this article as best we can, but it was talking about Russia and how we knew it was Russians and, that whole thing. Well, it looks like a team of reporters, and this is Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, Mark Krutov, Sergei Dobrinin, Mike Eckel, and Carl Schreck. They have really dove into this, and they were looking at this particular woman who has been linked to a network of companies and a network of people who are spreading this misinformation. So now, of course, if you don't recall, the revelations came as a number of influencers in France and Germany reported getting offers to receive money in exchange for putting out a statement essentially saying Pfizer has 3 times the death rate of COVID by itself, or 3 times the death rate of other vaccines, and do your own research, draw your own conclusions. Pfizer vaccine is not safe, which is not true. And of course, the people who were trying to push the campaign, it was a company called, I think it was like. Let's see, that company was called, I'm trying to look here in the article real quick. It's like Pizzazz or something. It had a lot of Z's in it. That's what I recall. Anywho, Faz, here we go, Fazze was the name of the company approaching these influencers. And some of the most telling points were, don't tell anyone that this is an ad, and don't tell anyone who is giving you the money, which are big red flags to let you know that, hey, maybe a big red flag would be involved. Now, the woman, and we'll just call her Yulia, which you can see right there, is a veteran of political campaigns and event planning for the ruling United Russia Party and briefly ran as an independent during the Moscow elections in 2019. Now, she also heads an organization called Russian Initiative, which describes itself as a worldwide union of Russian speakers that helps people carry on our culture and adequately represent our traditions, our social achievements, and rather than tolerate a distorted idea of the motherland wherever they are. Which sounds like a very veiled attempt to say that they are Russian nationals living abroad and they are still trying to push forth Russian goals and initiatives. But there you go. So how is this lady involved? She looks very kind. Shouldn't really happen. Well, check this one out. A French investigative news site called Fact and Furious, I like that, along with other outlets including the Wall Street Journal, Associated Press, The Guardian, reported that French bloggers, of course, received these messages from Faz. They also mentioned Germany. They were also contacted through Twitter, and they even provided screenshots of some of the messages, which you can see right here, of, again, people asking to discredit Pfizer on their social media accounts. Now, with that being said, a flowchart posted online of what appears to be an internal corporate document indicates further connections between AdNow, 2W Trade, and other associates, and companies linked to Yulia, which is the woman from before, all linked. They mentioned that she is a 2001 mathematics graduate from a Russian college, and mentioned that they worked briefly at a state-controlled national broadcaster before graduating and moving to Moscow, where she says she worked for NTV and Channel 1, both either state-funded or state-controlled channels. So obviously, for a number of years, for the past 2 decades, she has been working with the Russian government in some form, especially in terms of messaging and broadcasting, ideas. So that's very important. She even posted an online biography that also indicates that in 2007, she worked for campaign headquarters of Dmitry Medvedev. There we go, who was serving as the first deputy prime minister prior to being anointed by President Vladimir Putin as his preferred successor. So very clear contacts with higher ups in the Russian government, not just working with the Russian government, but working with very influential members of the political party. Now, this lady also says she worked with Putin's 2012 election campaign when he returned to the presidency, and that she headed the advertising section in the political department of the United Russia, the Kremlin-backed party that dominates Russian politics. So you can see she's getting closer and closer and closer to the higher-ups. Now, here's the fun part. In 2013, she moved to the United States for family reasons, spending about 2 years there, according to her biography. While there, she established cooperation with the Russian community in California. Who knew there was a big one? Turns out there is. And says that she established cooperation with the Russian community, with technology companies in Silicon Valley, Arizona, and Nevada. Those were her areas of expertise. So there you go. Now, with that being said, they were unable to find any public record of her in the United States during this time, and upon returning to Russia, she founded the company 2W Trade, and a year later, the organization Russian Initiative. In 2019, she attempted to run for a seat, but of course was self-nominated candidate, and unfortunately did not get enough signatures to register as a candidate. Now, with all that being said, they mentioned family ties, and one of the things here is that AdNow, 2W Trade, all the organizations that she's kind of familiar with, she's mentioned Russia, she's mentioned family ties in the United States, ties to American companies, but of course, a lot of the corporate filings are in the UK. And they also mentioned that another Moscow-based employee of AdNow was identified via LinkedIn profile. By the way, I find it really fun that these journalists, to really do their job, and don't get me wrong, they're being very thorough and they're really digging into the documents of these companies. But I find it fun that they, it's public. They're all publicly registered. They're doing LinkedIn, so information that they themselves are probably putting out. They are, kind of fact checking, of course, everything through, records and city records and things like that. But most of their work seems to be getting done for them through LinkedIn and related sites. So, yeah, it's careful what you put out there, but yeah, looks like you need to have some. It's almost impossible not to have some kind of paper trail when it comes to these types of activities. Now, with that being said, they're talking about all the different, kind of Russian employees that are working in this UK-based ad firm, and how, and just how, well, I guess Russian the whole operation is. With that being said, Graham Barrow, a UK-based financial crimes expert and host of podcasts about money laundering, told them that that Yulia, the one that we're talking about way at the beginning, is identified as a person of significant control for 3 UK entities, all 3 of which appear to be connected and exhibit strong signs of being shell companies. So obviously, having a physical place of residence, but not having a business there, having multiple mailbox in multiple locations, and of course, multiple businesses at a single location, i.e. shell companies. They mentioned that, for example, all 3 have declared at some point in their existence the same pair of offshore companies, one from Belize and one from the British Virgin Islands, to be the officers of the company. These 2 companies have acted for many and other UK registered companies, none of which appear to be associated with the UK in any way. Shell companies, corporations, seems very familiar. Now, with that being said, let's see. So they also mentioned that in September, regulators in several countries halted the use of AstraZeneca vaccine after reports suggested an increased danger of rare blood clots. Ultimately, the vaccine was cleared for use after official determination said that the risk was minimal. The head of the RDIF hailed the resumption of the use of the AstraZeneca while also suggesting that the science on it was developed was flawed. So in October, the Times of London detailed that a stealth disinformation campaign that aimed to malign the AstraZeneca vaccine by spreading memes and videos on fake websites that suggested that the vaccine could turn people into monkeys, which, yeah, very strange. Obviously would not happen. We know that Russia has got a track record in this area. Previously, we've commented and called them out on it, but anyone trying to basically sabotage the efforts of those trying to develop a vaccine are deeply reprehensible. These are the words by the CEO of that company. So obviously, Kremlin spokesperson has rejected all the allegations and mentions that Russia is not misinforming anyone. Russia proudly talks about its successes, and Russia shares its successes regardless of the first ever registered vaccine in the world. So clearly, Russia says no, but there are some very clear people that, are just connected to so many ways. And I think that, obviously that's the way that Russia operates, that if you dig down a little bit deeper into the companies that are spreading this, the profiles that are spreading this, the users that are doing this, dig just a little bit, and you start to see this network that is connected to companies in the United States, companies in the UK, companies in Germany, France, all over the West, and all over the West that are connected by just a few people who are managing this whole information campaign. So yeah, again, I thought that was fun that someone actually took the time to really see, who was actually doing this. And it looks like they came up with a couple of names over and over again. So that was our story number 2. Story number 3. Let's talk about this. And this might take just a minute as well, But file sharing, the dreaded file sharing that, I'm sure that we haven't noticed here on our screen from Xfinity. I'm sure that Comcast or Charter or AT&T, anyone who you would use as your cable provider, they would all send you a DMCA request very similar to this one, that if you download something from a website such as BitTorrent or any other torrenting site, you would be, you would be flagged as a risk, and send this letter saying, "Oh, we found, we logged your IP address, and turns out you were downloading things off of a file sharing network, and you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. This is warning 1 of 800,000, and if you get to 800,001 warnings, we're going to take you out as a customer." So the reason that they're so lax, and I'm joking obviously with the 800,000, but the reason that they're so lax is because they can't really prove anything. Yes, they can prove that maybe you did go to BitTorrent, but they really don't know what you downloaded. They have file names that they can, kind of associate with, and they can probably get the IP address, so, they kind of know what you're doing. But a lot of this is automated, and a lot of it is not very detailed, which is really highlighted by the fact of this particular story that, a person was downloading files from BitTorrent, but what were they downloading? Well, turns out that they were downloading Ubuntu. Yeah, they decided that, even though the Ubuntu has their own official website that you can go to and download, the operating system itself. Yeah, they were downloading a version of Linux that, it's completely free. There's no one that owns Ubuntu. There are distributions that are, that are paid for, but by and large, I think that most people recognize that Linux is not really the biggest cause for concern. It's not an international movie. It's not it's not a huge video game. It's not music. It's not anything else. It's free, and using BitTorrent to download Ubuntu is actually one of the most open and legitimate uses of this service, and Xfinity still got it caught in their DMCA warnings simply because of where it was. So with that being said, it was a particular Redditor got a nasty surprise. Of course, this was a DMCA infringement warning from his ISP, and the notice warned him that Comcast had received a notification by a copyright holder or its authorized agent reporting an alleged infringement of one or more of its copyrighted works. This reminds me a lot of when people upload on places like YouTube. They'll upload classical music that's been in the public domain forever. They'll still get DMCA takedowns. Or that one guy who uploaded like 10 hours of self-recorded TV static, and the automated content warning system said that he was stealing from other people. And, automation has its flaws. It's not perfect, and it's hard to believe that it will ever be perfect. But they mentioned that Ubuntu 20.04, which is free to redistribute by any means desired. Adding insult to injury, the hash listed on the notice is the same one associated with Canonical's own torrent of Ubuntu 20.04.2. So obviously he was getting dinged for torrenting an unmodified copy of an open source operating system. Free to download, free to use, free to distribute, and he got a DMCA takedown. And it's a little bit worse because obviously, saying that, again, notified by the copyright owner or its agent. And there's zero chance of that. This was an automated system that was too aggressive, and it's also a question of who even made this particular file a target of this. So, with that being said, typically DMCA infringement warnings are sent as a result of ISP customers using BitTorrent to acquire media or software illicitly. And while the customer is attached to the swarm, their public IP address is advertised. This allows other members of the swarm to request pieces of file being torrented from that user. Essentially, you have, for those who don't know how torrenting works, you have seeds or seeders, and you have people downloading it. And the more people you have seeding the same file, the faster your download would be. And of course, in a perfect world, this would be content that is, free to use, like the Ubuntu operating system. This is content that you would have the rights to, that you wanted shared and, not taken down. It's free because you can upload it from your own computer or your own servers. And yeah, by and large, it's very, very convenient. But it is used for illegal purposes, and yeah, it's one of the favorite tools of stealing copyrighted content. But the act of getting aggressive on this kind of content seems to have, and it's been this way for, 10, 15 years. It's very... Internet companies are very aligned with the content owners. If that wasn't clear to you from all of the streaming services and all the tech companies buying up their own content distribution platforms, yeah, it's should be very obvious which side they were going to take in all this, and it's not going to be their loyal customers. Now, the ISPs use this information to send a warning to the customer who had the public IP address at the time, and then proceeds from there. If the customer continues triggering DMCA takedown notices for long enough, the ISP will eventually escalate from warnings to service suspensions, or even a straight-up ban. Now, with that being said, ours reached out to the Reddit user and mentioned, the anti-piracy firm that allegedly sent the DMCA takedown. OPSEC Security was the first to respond and categorically denied having sent the notice. They mentioned that. So ours asked them to expand on its incontrovertible. It looks like the security company or the OPSEC Security that said that they were the ones who sent the DMCA takedown, or in this case did not send the DMCA takedown. They had incontrovertible evidence that they did not send this, and it can be easily disproven. They mentioned that they received no further reply. It took a little longer to get answers from Comcast. The representative who spoke to us was aware of the issue, and unfortunately the screenshot took was heavily redacted, too heavily redacted for Comcast to easily look up the incident, saying that we asked Comcast to search for any DMCA warnings associated with a hash, and if on infringing work instead, if possible, this would get us closer to the bottom of the story one way or another. Any such warning would either be a bogus takedown for downloading Ubuntu, or would demonstrate that a very unlikely hash collision had taken place and that the Ubuntu torrent shared a hash with a torrent from something unrelated. Comcast team found no evidence of sending DMCA warning associated with the hash in question, but that the search effort was seriously hampered by the lack of an associated case number. Essentially, even Comcast doesn't have full, I'm sure that, whichever representative they were talking to with Comcast probably didn't have all the permissions and the ability to search through everything at the press of a button. I'm sure that if they were, they don't want to give away private information to a third-party source like Ars Technica. Now, saying that since OPSEC Security says it was already aware of DMCA notice sending program being spoofed by multiple unknown parties, it seems safe to take, Nate 60 at his word. That is, he got what appeared to be a DMCA warning from his ISP concerning his downloading of Ubuntu. Comcast probably did send the DMCA infringement warning, even though his team wasn't able to find it. It wouldn't be hard to spoof Comcast warning, and most people don't know how to check an email's header for authenticity. But it seems unlikely that anyone but Comcast would be able to discover his email address in the first place, which is a very valid point. Who would do this? How would they do this? How would they even get his address? And how would they know exactly what he was downloading at the time? It seems very, very suspicious. And of course, the bigger question is, to what end? Now, with that being said, yeah, there you go. And they mentioned DMCA counter notices. How do you fight this, and how do you beat these fake charges against you? But by and large, the answer is pretty much just don't do it. I mean, contact Comcast, but yeah, the answer is they're not going to take action against you for one particular incident, but they will do it over a prolonged series of incidents. If there's some kind of pattern that this address is downloading illegal content over and over and over again from multiple sources, they're more likely to take action. But they're not going to do it over just one particular file or one particular thing. So there you have it. Downloading Ubuntu from BitTorrent caused a DMCA takedown notice, or at least a warning of the system. Very aggressive, but hey, that's what the systems have become. And I gotta say, they're getting a little bit better, but they're not great. They are not great at all. How about this one? Let's break this up a little bit. Talk about video games for a second. And EA's Ultimate Team, which is FIFA 21 Ultimate Team, raked in $3,000 per minute last year alone. Now, of course, you can look at that as obviously video games have taken a real boost from. Have gotten a real boost from COVID and everyone staying home and finding things to do. But still, FIFA's always been big money, and looks like they found a way to really tap into those microtransactions of FIFA. So although the mode is controversial, FIFA Ultimate Team has proven to be a massive moneymaker for EA. In the annual financial report, the publisher said that it made $1.62 billion from the Ultimate Team modes in EA Sports games during the 2021 financial year. That means, again, about $3,000 a minute from FIFA Ultimate Team's packs, which are aka loot boxes, because you can't really pick, I want this person on my team, that person on my team. No, you get a chance at different players from your from your packs, but your loot boxes that you purchase. The Ultimate Team freight train has been gathering pace over the last several years. EA generated $1.49 billion from those modes in 2020 and $1.37 in the year prior. So 1.37. So you're looking at an increase of like $120 million from 2019 to 2020, and now 2020 to 2021, you're looking at an increase of about $130 million. It's huge money. Net revenue from the Ultimate Team accounted for 29% of EA's entire $5.6 billion in net revenue. It's really incredible. So while EA is surely delighted at the success of Ultimate Team, regulators and many players aren't happy about the loot boxes. Critics have described them as a form of gambling and pay-to-win system, which, anytime that there's a system where you pay for content that can be used in the game, sometimes it's purely cosmetic, but this one is clearly pay-to-win. And I got to be honest, doesn't seem like people hate it. It seems like they're making a lot of money off of it. Players can earn FIFA Ultimate Team packs through gameplay or buy them with real money. And the digital players they receive are determined randomly. Belgium banned loot boxes back in 2018, and of course all over the UK and EU and the Netherlands, they've been looking at making loot boxes and what is essentially kids gambling. They've been taking a closer look at it. So obviously EA argues that loot boxes aren't a form of gambling, but it noted in financial documents that changes to laws or regulations could affect the Ultimate Team side of the business. So yeah, there you go. I think that's about it for that. But I had no idea that they were making that much money off of FIFA 2021. I think that for some people, and myself included, these EA sport games, I'm just not at all interested whatsoever in like Madden and FIFA, and there's probably a baseball one, MLB, and of course there's the basketball games. I am not at all interested in them, but clearly there's a massive subsection out there, and yeah, they must have jobs to be able to, afford that much content. It's, for anyone who says that, EA is going downhill and EA has no chance at, any kind of future, I feel like it's the same kind of people that look at IBM and say that, look at that, you don't see IBM on store shelves anymore. But turns out they've just been working the back end and they're doing better than ever. Happens all the time. Okay, let's see. So there's that story. We can go ahead and jump into story number 5. We have plenty of time to do this one. Which story should we do? Okay, how about a bit of a tease, and then we'll go and do another rumor. But this rumor has to do with Windows. And I remember when Windows 10 was first announced, and they said that Windows 10 would be the last version of the Windows operating system. That would be it. There would be no more iterations. It would be incrementally updated, but by and large, Windows 10 would be the last operating system from Windows. And, I called it back then. No, if for no other reason, and technically they don't have to do that, because they don't have to sell Windows on a CD anymore. You don't have to go to the, you don't have to go to the store and buy your software and that whole thing. Yes, thanks to the prevalence of the internet and being able to download and, implement operating systems anywhere, Windows 10 could have been the last operating system that Windows ever put out, and every year they do 2 refreshes, one in the spring, one in the fall, but I was thinking from a from a marketing standpoint, it just doesn't sell computers and just isn't as, sexy as saying that, oh, we have a brand new version of Windows. You got to check this out. From a marketing standpoint, it was never going to be the last one whatsoever. Now, Windows is getting big UI changes, a new store, and more. And I'm actually very curious about the Windows Store altogether, because it seems like they're really putting a lot of work into it after seeing how, how much money, Apple's been doing, and just the way that software is downloaded. You have to admit, Microsoft is very behind the times when it comes to downloading new relevant applications and software. We live in an app type world, and Microsoft and Windows is very much an application type environment. So, and I know that one's short for the other, but you know what I mean. Little easily downloaded pieces of software. Now, Microsoft isn't talking about its big Windows plan at Build 2021 this week, and that's because the company is preparing to detail what's next for its PC operating system separately. The CEO of Microsoft teased this announcement during his Build keynote this morning, revealing that he was testing the next generation of Windows in recent months. Saying, quote, "Soon we will share one of the most significant updates to Windows of the past decade to unlock greater economic opportunity for developers and creators." And there, clearly, he's talking about the update to the store. And of course, greater economic opportunity would be, oh, hey, what if Microsoft got some of that money? But I digress. He said that I've been self-hosting it over the past several months, and I'm incredibly excited about what's the next generation of Windows. Our promise to you is this: we will create more opportunity for every Windows developer today and welcome every creator who is looking for the most innovative, new, open platform to build and distribute and monetize applications. And that may sound really, Monetization was mentioned like 3 times in that statement. Money, money, money for people who probably by and large did not purchase Windows 10. That scares you a little bit. You know that you are about to be milked for cash. And I'm going to give this a pass because of the audience he was speaking to. He was speaking directly to the at Build 2021, which are obviously developers looking at what is next for what is the next build environment for Windows. He's speaking directly to his audience, and I think that's okay, especially considering the changes to the marketplace that Microsoft is about to unveil. So obviously, Microsoft has been working on a new app store for Windows in recent months, alongside some significant UI changes to the operating system. The CEO appears to reference the store changes here with a promise to unlock a better economy for developers and creators, and of course, Windows itself. Let's see. So skipping down here a bit, Microsoft confirmed last week that Windows 10X, its OS originally built for dual screen devices, will no longer ship, because every time Windows tries to develop a separate but equal operating system, it never goes well. Windows 8, mobile or whatever it was, and Windows 10X, no, not good. Now, the software makers now bring the best bits of Windows 10X, a simplified version of Windows, into the main version of Windows 10 instead. They also mentioned a number of UI changes. Some of the work has already started with new system icons, File Explorer improvements, and the end of the Windows 95 era icons. Microsoft is also focusing on improving basic foundations of Windows with fixes to the rearranging apps issue on multiple monitors, the addition of the Xbox Auto HDR feature, and Bluetooth audio support. A lot to go in there, and yeah, I think that's a lot of developers, at least, are very, very welcome to that, because developing for Windows, don't get me wrong, it's what you do. Windows is the dominant operating system when it comes to desktop applications. Distributing on Windows, that's a gamble. How the heck do you do that? Do you have people download it directly from you? That whole thing. Microsoft needs to get better at it, and it looks like they have definitely tried. So I'm excited to see, kind of what actually happens. So there you go. There's that story. Story number 5, story number 6. Cryptocurrency. Been talking about it a lot. I've been hearing about it from everyday people, and whenever that happens, get scared, because that means that it has reached the masses. Well, PayPal and Venmo will now let you send cryptocurrency to third-party wallets. So until now, obviously, PayPal and Venmo have simply let you buy cryptocurrency, hold cryptocurrency, and then sell the cryptocurrency back to them. But by and large, you could not send it or, trade it. Now, PayPal and Venmo users who dabble in cryptocurrency will be able to move their digital coins to third-party wallets in the near future. Currently, users buy and sell cryptocurrency on the platform, but they can't send it anywhere else, and that's about to change. So it's not clear exactly when they're going to do this. However, PayPal's vice president and general manager of blockchain, crypto, and digital currencies confirmed in an interview with CoinDesk that they will soon do so. They mentioned that, quote, "We want to make it as open as possible, and we want to give you the choice to consumers, something that will let them pay in any way that they want to pay," which would be huge. One of the problems that cryptocurrency in general has had is adoption rate. And I would say that PayPal and Venmo are two of the biggest mobile payment platforms, and if you can start actually paying in Dogecoin instead of just holding Dogecoin, transferring that to US dollars, and then paying in US dollars, if you can actually start paying for things in this cryptocurrency, that would be a huge step forward. Now, the concern there, though, and why it's still a risky proposition, is that cryptocurrency, if you haven't noticed, has been a little volatile lately. It has surged. So let's say you purchase a house in Bitcoin, and this is actually a real example that happened. Someone bought some real estate using cryptocurrency, and when they started the deal, when they were drawing up the contract and they were talking about numbers, they agreed that Bitcoin at that time was worth about $33,000. After 2 weeks, it was finally time to sign the dotted line, and turns out that while they agreed that Bitcoin was worth $33,000, the value of Bitcoin actually rose to like $43,000, which said that, you don't owe me 17 Bitcoin, you now owe me 15 Bitcoin or something along those lines, and it's all just this big question. So they agreed to the new number. They paid with Bitcoin, and over the course of a couple more weeks, the price of Bitcoin skyrocketed to $63,000. And of course, the person who paid that Bitcoin is thinking, "Man, I hate this. This is I overpaid in Bitcoin because it's worth so much more now than when I actually used it." And then, of course, on the other side, thinking, wow, what a great investment. I turned a $100,000 sale of a house into, $200,000 worth of Bitcoin. But then there's the other side of it. And this is the part that I think is going to really drive companies to consider, is this something worth doing? Over the following weeks, the price of Bitcoin dropped from $63,000 down to $35,000. And suddenly his Bitcoin that he had, I don't think he cashed it out, was worth half of what he paid, and he actually he actually lost money on that transaction. That fluctuation of, crazy runs and crazy pullbacks is, maybe it might not make that big of a difference to people doing large transactions who have the buffer. But let's say if you are a gas station and your profit margins are slim. Let's say you're a restaurant. That's an even better example. Your profit margins are slim. To pay your workers, to pay for your food, to pay for labor and all that kind of thing. You're already working on like a 10-15% profit margin. And that money is, already earmarked for other things. If you start accepting a currency that, it's not uncommon, especially in the past week or two, for it to lose 15% of its value overnight, that's not a sustainable way to run a restaurant. And of course, the other side of it is expecting it to increase in value, and then of course it does not. That could put you in an even further financial hole. How all this plays out, who knows? Maybe this gets easier when, again, according to this article, PayPal and Venmo start to offer the ability to pay in cryptocurrency. But man, I could even pull out my app right now and look at some of the more popular coins. And you're looking at, things like, what is this? Bitcoin SV, the original, up 6%. You have other ones that are down 3%. It's a very volatile way to accept payment. And I don't know if it's ready for prime time just yet. But still, looks like it's coming. Now, with that being said, support for third-party wallet transfers could entice more people to explore crypto on the platform. And then, of course, the overarching warning that if you don't know what you're doing with crypto, be careful. There's a lot of scam artists out there, and if you get your crypto stolen, by and large, there's not a lot that you can do about it. So be careful about sending or receiving cryptocurrency. It's dangerous. Or can be, at least. Let's get another update from one of the biggest stories yesterday, and that had to do with James Bond. For those who are completely out of the loop, living under a rock, $9 billion later, and Amazon owns MGM Studios, one of the largest and one of the few remaining independent producers of film, who own the right to so many different films. RoboCop is, of course, one that springs to mind. Rambo, I think, also belongs to MGM. And, well, here's one of the biggest, and that's James Bond. Love him or hate him, whichever generation of Bond you happen to be a part of, Bond films are big events. There's never, it's been around for 50 years, and every time a new one is released, it's not, the reviews may be bad, the reviews may be good. You have to admit, it is an international, kind of big deal whenever one of these is released, especially here in the United States. Well, as part of the deal, Bond producers stressed that the deal did not mean that The Spy would be pushed solely to Amazon streaming services, saying that we are committed to continuing to make James Bond films for the worldwide theatrical audience. So, James, and I fully expected this. Obviously, they wanted to treat their property, their new property, with as much respect as possible. You don't just go, well, Amazon owns the rights to James Bond, so we're going to establish the Bond universe, and we're going to have Bond TV shows and Bond animations and Bond movies that are exclusively on Amazon streaming services, and we're going to do a Bond video game. They're not going to do that, or at least not right away. That's not what they're doing. They're going to continue to be, the Bond films are going to continue to be screened in cinemas, despite Amazon's deal to buy the movie studio that co-owns the rights. So, they said that the rights to Bond are shared by Eon Productions and MGM, and Broccoli is the daughter of the original Bond producer, Cubby Broccoli, and she and Wilson still have creative control of the character. With the Amazon deal, MGM's share has now passed to the streaming giant, but they will keep their tight grip over the suave secret agents who plays them and what direction the movie takes. The pair have reportedly previously resisted attempts for him to appear in spin-off TV shows. You could imagine how popular a James Bond TV show would be and how enticing that would be. But, yeah. So Amazon will not have free reign to exploit the franchise with spin-offs that, you can look at Disney and Star Wars and see what they've been doing. Even though a lot of the reaction to the Star Wars universe has actually been very positive, but it looks like James Bond for the moment will not be getting that treatment. So with that being said, MGM, just to really highlight this, MGM has one of the largest and most illustrious catalogs in Hollywood, including 4,000 films and 17,000 TV shows. That includes Rocky, Legally Blonde, The Pink Panther, Tomb Raider, Basic Instinct, Raging Bull, RoboCop, The Silence of the Lambs, Thelma and Louise. However, earlier classics like Gone with the Wind and The Wizard of Oz have been sold off in previous deals. So, not everything, but still pretty good. They also mentioned the TV shows include things like The Handmaid's Tale, Fargo, and Vikings. So, lot going on there. The acquisition thesis here is really simple. MGM has a vast and deep catalog of much-loved intellectual property. With the talented people at MGM and Amazon Studios, we can reimagine and develop that IP for the 21st century. Everything I still said previously about Amazon purchasing this, not a fan. Definitely not a fan of these super powerful tech companies coming in and disrupting other markets, but it's to be expected. And again, entertainment and content distribution is a very simple vertical, so I understand why they did it. Okay, there's that one. Let's go ahead and continue on here. We have time for one more story if we really do this well. Let's see, we're not going to talk about the pipelines and the new regulations that they have. Don't want to talk about facial recognition. How about this one? This one could be seen as controversial, but I understand why Facebook did it. This has to do with COVID-19 and the spread of misinformation. Well, one particular story that was a subject, or at least was seen as a subject of misinformation, is now being let through again. And that is the idea that COVID-19 was manufactured in a lab in Wuhan, China. Is that what happened? Probably not. Is China forthcoming with allowing investigators into its country to find out the true origins of COVID-19 and potentially stop it from happening again? No, they're being very resistant to that. They seem to be persistent that it's one of these wet markets with animals and, a lot of, poor hygiene, and it eventually catching to a person. But by and large, this ever-present undercurrent that it could have been produced by that viral lab in the same city that was only a couple blocks from where the epicenter is believed to have been, looks like Joe Biden and his intelligence agencies are looking into or trying to investigate the so-called lab leak hypothesis. Facebook's policy change was made in consultation with health experts, and that's what they told Politico. The social network's policy mandates that false claims and conspiracy theories about the virus be removed. Well, early on, there was the dangerous hoax, the falsely suggesting that drinking bleach might cure the coronavirus, for instance, circulated widely on Facebook and were shared by thousands of people. Despite Facebook's January 2020 announcement that it would be applying its misinformation policies to post about the coronavirus and subsequent efforts. So, since then, Facebook has updated its list of statements that will be removed, including an anti-vaccination propaganda as well. To try to stem the tide of misinformation, the company creates notifications about where to get information about the vaccines across its platforms. You may have seen those. Every time you post about COVID-19, you may get a little button there that says click here for more information, and it's at least information from trusted sources, especially whenever their sources that are being shared are untrusted. Now, earlier today, Biden released a statement saying that the intelligence community believes that two scenarios are possible: that the virus started spreading when a human contacted with an infected animal, or that the spread was a result of a lab accident. Most in the intelligence community believe that there isn't enough evidence to determine which scenario is more likely, according to that statement. So obviously, this lab leak theory has raised concerns about anti-Asian hate and everything that goes along with that. Other social media sites are being asked to comment. Did this actually happen? I don't know which is the truth. I got to say that COVID, by and large, before COVID-19, whenever, SARS, which was a version of COVID, and, coronavirus, and there have been other versions of coronavirus, usually have come from, animals in other ways. So to say that it's impossible to have come from an animal, unlikely. But will China, either way, neither one of these makes China look like the good guy. And on top of that, if anything, it makes China look responsible for the entirety of COVID-19, either through their own state-run laboratory or through their negligent market practices and sale and consumption of animals in Wuhan. Either one puts them at blame. So they're going to fight both tooth and nail, and they might know themselves, especially if it was from the lab, they would definitely know themselves, but they're going to fight both so that no one actually knows the truth. Will we? I would really love to know, but there you go. That's the end of it. Okay, let's see. So, according to the time here, we have like a minute and 20. Some of the stories that we didn't get to include Nintendo's OLED Switch should be coming sometime in September. So, just in time, well, not just in time, sometime before the next holiday season, we will have an updated Nintendo Switch, which is pretty cool because Nintendo Switch has been 720p garbage. don't get me wrong, it's a fun console, lots to love there, lots of games to love, but by and large, I think a lot of people would agree, its hardware is lacking. So it looks like they're doing a content refresh with a 7-inch OLED display sourced from Samsung. So that should be coming later in the year. Borderlands 3 is getting cross-play support, except for PlayStation. PlayStation can only play with PlayStation, whereas Borderlands 3 can be played on Microsoft, Apple, Xbox, of course, Switch, all that and more. Cross-play integrated. There you go. They had mentioned HBO Max, but that's more for people outside of the United States. And yeah, that's about all the time we have here for today. So thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. Until next time, thank you so much. And hey, we'll catch you here tomorrow. We should have the one, the only Mr. Nathan Evans. And until then, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.